Welcome to In Isolation. I'm James KERWIN, webcasting from Los Angeles, California. And as always, with me, all the way from Surrey Hills, England, is my co-host, Nicola Bryant. Nicola.
Hello. How are you? How's your week been?
No complaints. I'm really looking forward to another awesome guest this episode. How about you?
We are so blessed with awesome guests. We are very, very lucky. So yeah, I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, so this week we have the wonderful actress Amanda Wyss. And you know her from classic roles in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Nightmare on Elm Street, Silverado, Highlander, the TV series of Highlander. She has been a guest star on countless classic series as well. Buck Rogers, Cheers, Charmed, CSI, Dexter, you name it, she's been in it. And we're going to talk with her about her career and what she's been up to.
It's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to catching up with her.
All right, then let's go ahead. So without further ado, here is Amanda Wyss. Amanda, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, I have to say, because although we don't, this doesn't go out on the same day that we record, at this particular time, I have to ask you both in Los Angeles, how are you doing? There is so much happening.
Yeah, that's actually, you bring up a good point, and we don't mean, I know our viewers probably don't realize this, we tend to shoot these episodes a week or multiple weeks in advance sometimes, so we are not always on top of current issues as far as when these are released, so we in no way mean to be dismissive of the terrible situation that's going on right now. The death of George Floyd, which is absolutely tragic, and the both positive and negative things that have come about as a result of it. Of course, the peaceful protests are a very positive thing that's driving change now that we're starting to see. Unfortunately, there have been rioters and looters who have taken advantage of the peaceful protests in a lot of the major cities here, including Los Angeles. It's really unfortunate. Not to mention, we also had an earthquake this week. And multiple power outages where I live in the heat, so it's kind of been nuts.
Something about killer insects you have?
Oh yeah, well, they're still in Washington State, but they're murder hornets is what they're called, and they can be lethal to humans, but they're a predator to bees, so it's really bad for the environment as well. So yeah, they say they have it under control in Washington. So I'm hoping they do, because obviously they can spread through. And I actually know someone that was stung by one, and they almost died. It's a pretty painful. It'd just be an awful way to go after all this, to be like attacked by murder hornets. But yeah. But I concur with everything you said, like that. The protests are beautiful and needed, and hopefully giving everyone across the country and even the world a chance to take stock of ourselves and educate ourselves where needed and when needed. And I'm sure it's probably needed. Just say needed. And then the people taking advantage of the situation, it's the lesser part of our nature. And I really want to believe and work to believe that we're all connected and we're all part of the same source, and that every human has value. And I try to really look at that they're a part of our nature that we also need to look at, that a situation like this can be co-opted for personal gain is something that we all can look at in parts of our lives, I think, where we may have done, I'm not looting, but where we look for our own personal gain over the greater good. But that underlying tension and anxiety, and I feel like as an empathetic person, sometimes I feel like my soul is being like eaten by a Death Eater. Like I'm just so worried. And and then the earthquake, forget it. So the last week I've slept with a full set of clothes like a fireman near my bed. Like if it happens again, I can leap into them with my flashlight and I don't even know where I'm going to go after that. But I have our earthquake kit by the front door. So Stephen, who I live with, is like, okay, you know what? You gotta we've got to let this go. I'm like, I can't. So that's where I'm at with all this.
God, I feel for you guys. We get, obviously we get the footage, and I'm not on social media a lot at the moment because I'm taking care of my mom and doing a lot of extra care work and stuff like that. But every time I see something, as you say, it kind of breaks a little part of me. And then I think I can't watch too much of this. And yet I want to be supportive and be a voice for what is right and what is just and what is fair and what is decent. But it is really stressful to look at the social media footage.
And that's the thing, we, the three of us can sit here and complain and say, oh, how stressed we are. We are very privileged.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, we really are. I mean, what this situation is about is about the segments of our population, people of color, other repressed segments of the population that have had to deal with living in fear their entire lives. So it's something that a lot of us just aren't used to, and probably never will be completely able to understand.
Yes, 100%. What you're saying is so true. Like the anxiety or soul crushing feelings I feel are nothing in comparison to people that live that every day or have to warn their children to be aware of that's coming for them and things that I will never understand, but I want to ally myself to whatever I can do to be part of the solution and progression to more just world.
We've gone through a lot more of the ugly face of racism since Brexit. And I have 2 mixed race godchildren, most beautiful children, physically and emotionally. And they had never experienced any kind of racism until this.
Wow.
So they really didn't know how to deal with it when it came to them. So it feels like not just the in isolation, but for us, we were going through all the Brexit before and the sort of the turmoil that brought out. It just really divided the country. So it feels like it's been a longer ongoing thing. And although we sort of know how things are going to fold out here, I know I start work on the 1st of August.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have it set up how that's going to?
Regulations for filming are really strict, so hopefully everyone will be safe. But I think the film industry is thinking, oh, we won't need to do that by January.
I got offered a little film. I'm not sure. We're still negotiating it, but the idea for it to go is you get tested and then you go in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then everyone goes on location and stays in quarantine, and your temperature is taken every day, and once a week you're retested, and like a minimal crew of like 10 people, they say, which I guess that can happen, and then scenes will only have 2 actors in them. So it'll be interesting. I mean, it kind of almost sounds like a Zoom reading, but you're in the same room. And so it'll be interesting if I end up doing it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It's an interesting way that I think that's probably what's going to happen here in Los Angeles. What do you think about Los Angeles?
I don't know. I mean, I think I saw that the state government is wanting film and television production to resume this coming week. Well, by the time this episode airs, it will already probably have happened. But from the people that I know, a lot of crew and cast members are just like, I'm not comfortable doing that. Even if production officially goes back, starts up again, I don't feel safe enough to be able to. So I don't know that that's going to really happen, even though the state wants it to.
Yeah.
But speaking of production,
now that we're all like, wah, wah. Oh my gosh, I need a drink. Okay, I know. I actually had decided not to drink in quarantine, which is, I'm sure it's made me incredibly healthy, but It's not, I'm sometimes I'm like, oh, I should be having a martini every night. It would really make this better.
Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, so let's talk a little bit about your work and your career, and let's go back to the beginning. One of your earliest roles was starring in, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street, which has gone on to be considered pretty much the greatest horror film of all time, one of the greatest horror films of all time.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us about that experience, and in particular, at the time did you have any idea that franchise would become as popular and enduring as it is?
Okay, well, thank you for saying it's the best horror film of all time or whatever. I'm sure people would debate you on that, but I'll take it. I, that just came about for me, just a normal audition. I was sent the script, and I'd only seen some old black and white horror films, on TV. I had never really seen scary movies. And so I was like, oh my, and the script but I'd read a lot of scary novels, and the script was incredibly scary. So I went and met with Wes, and then on the callback, my callback was with the cast. So he'd clearly cast it in his head just from our first meetings. And he told us in the room, we had the parts, which you guys know rarely ever happens. And I had no idea that it was going to be anything more than this little indie made with a bunch of really cool people, and that we're all still in contact, by the way. It's like college friends. I feel like we all met at like a sorority party, and we've all stayed friends. But I had no idea, and I don't know if it's just that I was young, and no. I've never been able to guess a film. The ones I thought were going to die a rightful death have gone on, and ones that I just never know. But there are people, when I've been on Comic-Con panels, people in the film say that they knew. I didn't. That Halloween, after it came out and it was on VHS, about 10 little Freddies came to the door. And I said to these little kids and their parents, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Freddy Krueger. I'm in that movie. I played Tina. And they go, no, you didn't. And that was that. That was my big illustrious. I was like, so that's my Freddy Krueger story.
and quite a coincidence in that we sort of have a mutual friend in Rachel Talali was the production manager in Nightmare on Elm Street. And do you have any memories of her? Because she's now quite an acclaimed sci-fi director herself.
She's such a fabulous director. You know what? We didn't really interact much when we were filming. But since we've, through social media, have become acquainted again. And, I've told her I'm such a huge fan of hers, and she directs all the shows I would die to be on, because my favorite genre is sci-fi. Like I love you, I love the Star Trek and Doctor Who and just all of them. And she's just carved out an amazing niche, or niche, however you say that in proper English. So don't hold me to grammar. But the thing with that is, in my entire career, I've worked with 6 female directors.
Yeah.
And that she just does also. So hopefully someday she'll hire me, and I'll get to really work with her, because I'm a big fan, and I really like her work, and I like what she brings out in people. And but yes, she's very beloved in the franchise, and is a huge part of bringing all the sequels to life and maintaining the integrity of the franchise. I mean, that is a lot on her.
I always liked her work, but then I also met her at conventions in Los Angeles, and then I just really liked her as a person.
Yeah.
We ended up on a panel together, and we so agreed on so many things. It was just lovely.
Ooh, I could see you two being that way, having a copacetic energy with things.
Contrasted with Nightmare on Elm Street is another very famous franchise, Highlander, But in this case, you joined it well after it had become world-renowned. So how did it feel coming into an established sci-fi franchise that was already beloved by so many fans?
First of all, I'm a huge Highlander fan. So when I got, I'm part of Highlander, the TV series. But when it came about for me, I lost my mind with excitement, because I'm a huge sci-fi fantasy fan. And like I said, I was a huge fan of the movies. And oh my gosh, I loved everybody involved with that. And I loved my character. I got to play the intrepid reporter that was always after him. And I loved working with Adrian Paul. And then on top of that, the guest stars on that series were, everybody wanted to be on it because everybody loved the Highlander. And so I got to work with all these amazing people. And then, and it was the first TV series that was internationally produced, in the sense that there was money and executive producers from, France and Germany and America and Canada and Japan. And it was just like that first season anyway, it was a little crazy. So as you guys know, the notes from the producers were insane, because there was just so many fingers in the pie sending notes, like down to stuff like how networks do, like, she should part her hair on the left, not on the right, and those kind of things. And which we all know from television. But oh my God, I loved doing that show. And then they decided not to have me back, and I was crushed. I think I cried for 6 months. They just thought that they wanted to focus on the relationship between the Highlander and his girlfriend, and that they didn't need another sort of blonde person. I was like, I'll dye my hair, I'll do whatever. I'll be mean to him. I won't even look at him. I'll put my scenes with somebody else. So yeah, I was pretty devastated. That was a tough one to be let go on, and they were very nice about it. But it was still, they tried to let me down easy, but my agents gave me the talk that you're not anybody in Hollywood till you've been let go. So I don't know if that's true, but I've stayed friends with the couple of the cast members, and oh God, I love doing that show so much. And people are so, I love sci-fi fans of things, because the intricate details of things that I don't even think of, you guys must have encountered that with your shows too. Like, they'll be like, in the background in that one scene, the red button, I know what that symbolizes. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And they're probably right. I love all that. I like all the minutiae.
They always know so much more than you do, and pick out every tiny little detail and things that you've forgotten, that you probably knew 20 years ago or something, that they always remember. And it is extraordinary. And we are blessed to have such strong and avid fans.
Oh my gosh, so blessed. Like, in my wildest dreams, I would have never thought that I would, through conventions, learn that people felt so strongly about things that we're a part of. It's pretty amazing. And, to speak to what you're also asking, James, was that when the things that fans like pick out, I did Nightmare on Elm Street, and then the month later I started Better Off Dead. And so nobody knew anything about Nightmare on Elm Street, but there's a scene in Better Off Dead in the cafeteria where somebody walks behind me in the same sweater that Freddy Krueger wears in Nightmare on Elm Street. So fans for years have been like, oh, it was a nod to Nightmare on Elm Street, and that Amanda had the director put that in. But I didn't. I wish I could take credit for the genius of it, but that nobody had seen Nightmare on Elm Street yet. And weirdly, the kid walking by me, I saw him all day. I never even put it together that it was Freddy Krueger's sweater. I didn't even, I don't know. I missed the whole thing. And so anyway, that's a question I get asked on almost every panel. And I sadly have to tell people that it was just a bizarre coincidence, although that is a pretty amazing coincidence. But
that is, wow.
But a coincidence nonetheless.